Chapter 1. Like it, subscribe, comment if you dare, because once you step inside this story, there's no rewind button, only consequences. The sirens were still screaming when they found the body wedged between the laundry carts, face down on the concrete floor of C Block. The fluorescent lights above flickered like they were short of breath. Blood had crept across the drain and dried there, dark and sticky, as if the prison itself had tried to swallow the evidence. Officers sealed off the tier. Inmates pressed their faces to the bars, and everyone knew what this meant. Someone had crossed a line you do not cross, even in prison. The dead man's name was Lucas Vega, 26 years old, in for armed robbery, scheduled for release in 14 months. And 3 weeks earlier, Lucas Vega had joined a prison gang. By the time homicide detectives arrived, the word was already moving faster than the paperwork. The guard said it was an accident, a slip, a fall. That was the official story every time someone died behind walls. But the way Lucas's knuckles were split, the way his jaw sat crooked, the crude ink symbol carved into the skin near his collarbone, none of it looked accidental. Detective Erin Walsh stood over the body, jaw clenched, eyes taking everything in. She had worked prison deaths before. Most of them were quiet, bureaucratic, forgotten. This one felt loud, even in death. "Which gang?" she asked. The guard hesitated. That was answer enough. Lucas Vega had arrived at Iron Heights Correctional Facility scared but hopeful. He wrote letters to his mother every week. He kept his head down. He avoided trouble. But Iron Heights was not the kind of place where avoiding trouble kept you safe. It was the kind of place where neutrality made you pray. On his second night, Lucas watched a man get dragged out of his cell by 3 others and beaten until the screams turned into wet choking sounds. No one intervened. Not the guards. Not the inmates. In Iron Heights, silence was survival. The next morning, a man named Reaper sat across from Lucas in the chow hall. Reaper was in his 40s, his arms sleeved in faded tattoos, his eyes cold and patient. He spoke softly, like a favor was being offered. "You roll alone in here," Reaper said, stirring his oatmeal. "You don't roll long." Lucas tried to brush him off. Said he was almost done. Said he just wanted to go home. Reaper smiled. Everybody wants to go home. Most don't. By the end of that week, Lucas had been cornered in the showers, slashed across the ribs, shallow enough to hurt, not deep enough to kill. A message. He lay on his bunk that night, staring at the ceiling, realizing the truth no one explained on the outside. Prison gangs are not about loyalty. They are about leverage. Joining meant protection, but it also meant debt. Iron Heights had 3 dominant gangs, each divided by race, territory, and trade. Drugs, contraband, influence. The gang Lucas joined called themselves a brotherhood. They wore matching symbols and enforced their rules with precision. Once you were in, you were owned. At first, Lucas's tasks were small. Passing notes, standing lookout, holding packages he was told never to open. He told himself it was temporary, just until he got out. Then Reaper asked for a favor, a shank wrapped in plastic, a name whispered in Lucas's ear, a promise that it would all be over after this. Lucas did not do it. Not fully. He warned the man instead. Thought he could play both sides. Thought nobody would know. Someone always knows. The investigation into Lucas Vega's death stalled immediately. Surveillance cameras in C Block had gone offline for 13 minutes that night. Witnesses suddenly could not remember anything. The warden pushed for a quick ruling of inmate-on-inmate violence, closed case. But Walsh noticed something else. Lucas's file had been flagged 2 days before his death. A request for protective custody, never processed. Someone had delayed it. She dug deeper. Financial records showed commissary funds moving through accounts tied to the Brotherhood. Lucas's name appeared once, then disappeared, like he had been erased. Meanwhile, inside Iron Heights, the message was clear. Lucas Vega was not a victim. He was a warning. Inmates whispered that he had talked, that he had tried to walk away, that the Brotherhood had made an example out of him. Others said it was worse, that Lucas had been set up to take the fall for something bigger. Reaper did not attend the lockdown briefing the next morning. Neither did 2 other Brotherhood members. By the time guards searched their cells, the bunks were empty, sheets neatly folded, personal items gone. Transferred, the paperwork claimed. Walsh did not buy it. She requested access to sealed disciplinary reports and found something buried deep, an incident from 6 months earlier. A correctional officer caught smuggling contraband. Charges dropped. Evidence missing. The officer's last known assignment had been C Block, the same block where Lucas died. When Walsh returned to the crime scene, maintenance crews were already scrubbing the floor. She stopped them just before they reached the drain. Inside, wedged beneath the metal grate, was something no one had noticed. A folded scrap of paper, soaked but intact. 3 words, written in shaky ink. I tried to leave. Walsh felt the weight of it settle in her chest. Lucas Vega had not just joined a gang. He had tried to escape it. And in prison, that was a crime worse than betrayal. As she stood there, a guard approached her quietly. "They opened cell 213, he said. "That's Lucas's cell," Walsh replied. The guard swallowed. "There's something you should see." When they unlocked the door and stepped inside, the walls told a story no report ever would. Symbols scratched into the concrete. Dates, names crossed out, and above the bunk, carved deep enough to bleed fingers, a message that had not been there before. Not a threat, a confession, and the realization hit Walsh all at once. Lucas Vega was never the target. He was the test. Chapter 2. Detective Erin Walsh did not sleep that night. The words carved into the concrete of cell 213 replayed in her mind on a loop, sharper than any autopsy photo. Loyalty is proven in blood. The carving was fresh. Too fresh. Whoever left it wanted it seen, and they wanted it understood. This was not just a warning to inmates. It was a message to anyone who thought they could pull the thread and unravel what was happening inside Iron Heights. By morning, the warden was already on damage control. Media vans lined the street outside the prison. A young inmate dead weeks before release was a headline that would not quietly disappear. Walsh was ordered to keep her investigation narrow. One victim, one motive, no institutional failures. She ignored that order. The first crack came from an inmate named Calvin Brooks, a lifer with nothing left to lose. Walsh found him in the infirmary, his wrists shackled to the bed, his voice low and dry. "Lucas wasn't the first," Calvin said, staring at the ceiling. "Just the first you noticed." He explained how the Brotherhood operated. Recruitment was aggressive, but leaving was impossible. Every new member was tested, pushed to commit something that could be used against them later. Assault, extortion, sometimes worse. Proof of loyalty, proof of guilt. "They don't just want you scared," Calvin said. "They want you owned." Lucas had tried to skip that final step. He had warned the intended victim, a low-level dealer tied to a rival gang. That single act threatened the entire system. If one man could refuse, others might follow. So Lucas had to disappear. Walsh pulled records of every inmate death at Iron Heights over the past 3 years. Patterns emerged. Same blocks, same guards on duty, same delayed paperwork. Protective custody requests that went unanswered until it was too late. Someone on the inside was helping the Brotherhood clean up. That someone had a name. Officer Daniel Mercer. 12 years with the department. No prior complaints. Clean record. Too clean. Mercer had been on duty the night Lucas died. He had also been the officer who discovered the body, a coincidence that bothered Walsh more the longer she stared at it. When she tried to bring Mercer in for questioning, she hit another wall. Mercer had taken emergency leave that morning. Family issue, according to his supervisor. Walsh drove to the address listed in Mercer's file. A small house on the edge of town. Curtains drawn. Mail piled at the door. Inside, the place was empty. No signs of a struggle. Just one thing left behind on the kitchen table. A Brotherhood symbol, drawn in black marker on a scrap of paper. The case escalated fast after that. Federal investigators were notified. Internal affairs circled. The warden suddenly found himself answering questions he had avoided for years. And inside Iron Heights, the atmosphere shifted. Lockdowns became longer. Searches more aggressive. Fights broke out without warning. 2 inmates were stabbed in the yard within 24 hours, both known associates of Lucas Vega. One survived long enough to whisper a single word before losing consciousness. Mercer. The name spread like fire through the tears. Walsh knew she was running out of time. If Mercer had fled, he had help, And if he was still inside the system somewhere, he was dangerous. Then her phone rang. A blocked number. A distorted voice. "You're digging where you shouldn't," the voice said. Lucas should have stayed quiet. So should you. The line went dead. Walsh reported the call, but she also did something else. She requested transfer logs. Real ones, not the sanitized versions filed with the state. After hours of pressure, a clerk quietly slid a folder across the desk. 3 inmates had been moved out of Iron Heights the night Lucas died. No destinations listed. No receiving signatures. Ghost transfers. One of those names made Walsh's stomach drop. Reaper. If Reaper was alive, he was a key. If he was dead, someone had gone to extreme lengths to erase him. Walsh traced a lead to a private transport contractor used by the prison system. A shell company with changing addresses and no real oversight. When she showed up unannounced, the office manager panicked, hands shaking as she handed over incomplete logs. One transfer route ended at a decommissioned facility outside the city. No cameras, no staff, no records of inmates leaving. Walsh drove there as the sun dipped below the tree line. The prison sat abandoned, windows broken, fences rusted. Inside, the air smelled of mold and old sweat. In the former intake room, she found chains bolted into the floor. And blood, fresh. Before she could call it in, headlights swept across the yard. A van pulled up fast. Doors slammed. Footsteps echoed. Walsh drew her weapon and backed into the shadows. Men entered the building, their voices low and calm. Professionals, not inmates. One of them spoke a name Walsh had hoped never to hear again. "Mercer says the cop is getting close." Another voice replied, "Then we end it, like the others." Walsh's heart hammered as she realized the truth. Lucas Vega's death was not an isolated prison murder. It was part of a control pipeline. Inmates, guards, contractors, a network built on fear and silence, extending far beyond Iron Heights. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. A text message, unsent number. "You should have listened." The men were closer now. Walsh edged toward a side exit, but her foot caught on something. She looked down. A body hidden beneath a tarp. The face was bruised, unrecognizable at first. Then she saw the tattoo on the forearm. Reaper, still breathing. Before Walsh could move, a flashlight beam snapped onto her face. "Detective," a voice said calmly, "you really don't know when to stop." The door behind her slammed shut. Chapter 3. The door echoed like a gunshot when it slammed shut behind Detective Erin Walsh. The beam of the flashlight burned into her eyes, blinding her just long enough for hands to grab her arms and wrench the weapon from her grip. She did not scream. She knew better. Fear was currency in places like this. Officer Daniel Mercer stepped into the light. Up close, he looked smaller than Walsh expected. Not imposing. Not monstrous. Just tired. His uniform was gone, replaced by civilian clothes, but his posture still carried authority. "Control. You should have let it go," Mercer said quietly. Lucas did not understand the rules. "You don't either." Walsh glanced toward the tarp on the floor. Reaper's chest rose shallowly. Alive, but barely. Proof that the Brotherhood's reach extended far beyond the walls of Iron Heights. "You murdered a kid with 14 months left," Walsh said, "all to protect the gang." Mercer shook his head. "No, to protect the system." He explained it like he was reciting policy. Overcrowded prisons, underpaid staff, gangs filled the gaps administration refused to address. They kept order. They controlled violence. They moved contraband that guards pretended not to see. In exchange, certain deaths were ignored. Certain men disappeared. Lucas Vega had broken the balance. He tried to walk away. Mercer said, "If that idea spreads, everything collapses." Walsh saw it then. This was not corruption born from greed. It was corruption born from convenience. A deal with the devil, justified by statistics and silence. A sound cut through the building. Sirens, distant but approaching. Mercer's expression changed. Someone had tipped her off, or someone had betrayed him. He turned to one of the men. "End this." The man hesitated. That hesitation saved her life. Walsh lunged forward, slamming her shoulder into Mercer's chest. They crashed into a metal table. Pain exploded through her ribs. She grabbed the fallen flashlight and smashed it against Mercer's head. He went down hard. Gunfire erupted outside. Federal agents flooded the yard. Someone shouted commands. The men scattered. Walsh crawled to Reaper and pulled the tarp away from his face. "Stay with me," she said. Reaper's eyes flickered open. He smiled weakly. "Kid tried to be good," he rasped. "That's what killed him." Mercer was arrested that night. So were 2 transport contractors and 3 correctional officers. The Brotherhood's leadership inside Iron Heights fractured overnight. Raids followed. Lockdowns. Transfers. Headlines called it reform. Lucas Vega's death was ruled a homicide. For a while, it felt like justice. Walsh attended Lucas's funeral quietly, standing at the back as his mother wept. She left before anyone could recognize her. There were no words that could make it right. Iron Heights installed new cameras, new oversight committees, new policies that looked good on paper. The warden retired early, and the system adjusted. 3 months later, Walsh received a file in the mail. No return address. Inside were photos from a different prison, different state. Same symbol carved into concrete. Same phrase. Loyalty is proven in blood. The inmate was 23. First offense. 6 months from release. Walsh stared at the photos long after the sun went down. Mercer was behind bars. Reaper was dead. The Brotherhood had been exposed. And yet, the pattern continued. Because prison gangs do not die when you cut off the head. They adapt. They move. They wait. Lucas Vega had learned that too late. Walsh closed the file and locked it away, knowing the truth no press conference would ever admit. Some doors close. Others just change location. And if you think this story was intense, you are not ready for the next one.